The room was silent. Dead silent. You could hear the hum of the projector fan and the frantic beating of Elijah Sterling's heart. 5 minutes ago, Elijah, a man worth $300 million, was laughing. He was pointing a finger at an elderly woman in the back row, a woman who spent her mornings wearing a neon vest and holding a stop sign. He had invited her here as a joke. A prop. A way to show the city council that regular people didn't understand the complexities of high-end infrastructure. But now, the elderly woman wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the young woman standing at the head of the table. The young woman who had just shut off Elijah's presentation with a single click of a remote. The young woman who was currently holding Elijah's billion-dollar permit application in her hand and tearing it in half. "Mr. Sterling," the young woman said, her voice calm and terrifyingly professional. "You invited my mother here to teach her a lesson about traffic. But I believe it is you who needs to learn how this city actually works. This is the story of how a billionaire's arrogance cost him everything and how a crossing guard's daughter saved a city. Before we get into this story of incredible justice, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring you more powerful stories like this every single day. Now, let's go back to where it all started. Elijah Sterling was not a patient man. In the world of high-stakes real estate development, patience was synonymous with bankruptcy. Elijah built glass towers. He reshaped skylines. He moved fast, spoke loud, and expected the world to part like the Red Sea whenever he stepped, or drove, into it. His latest obsession was the Sterling Nexus, a proposed mixed-use development that would bulldoze 6 blocks of affordable housing in the West District to build a luxury shopping center and high-rise condos. It was a billion-dollar project. The only thing standing in his way was the City Planning Commission, which had been dragging its feet on the traffic impact analysis. But Elijah had a smaller, daily annoyance. Her name was Martha. Martha was 62 years old. For 20 years, she had stood at the intersection of 4th and Oak, right where the suburbs bled into the city center. It was a dangerous intersection, a four-way stop that drivers frequently ignored. Martha took her job as a crossing guard with the seriousness of a heart surgeon. When she raised her stop sign, you stopped. Elijah's route to his penthouse office took him through 4th and Oak every morning at 7:45 a.m. And every morning, Martha made him wait. It was a Tuesday in November, freezing cold with biting rain, when the tension finally snapped. Elijah was late for a meeting with his investors. He was in his silver Maserati, drumming his fingers on the leather steering wheel. He saw a gap in the children crossing. He gunned the engine, inching into the crosswalk. Whack. Martha had stepped right in front of his bumper and slapped the hood of his $250,000 car with her gloved hand. She blew her whistle, sharp and piercing. Elijah rolled down the window, the cold rain spitting into the luxury interior. "Are you insane?" he barked. The kids were clear. "Get out of the way." Martha didn't flinch. She walked to his window, water dripping from the brim of her plastic hat. "The light is red, sir. The children are not clear until I say they are clear. Back up." "Do you know who I am?" Elijah sneered. "I pay more in taxes in a single day than you'll earn in a lifetime. I built half this city." "Then you should know that a pedestrian scramble requires a 20-second count," Martha said calmly. "Back up, Mr. Sterling. Before I call the officer on the corner." Elijah threw the car into reverse, his face burning with rage. As he sat there, watching her usher a group of shivering first graders across the street, an idea formed in his mind. A cruel, petty idea. He needed to sway public opinion for the Sterling Nexus project. The biggest complaint was traffic congestion. He had a summit scheduled for Friday, a televised town hall where he planned to dazzle the city council with cooked data and flashy renderings. He needed a foil. Someone to represent the uninformed public who complained about traffic but didn't understand progress. He rolled his window down again as he passed her. "Martha, is it?" She looked at him, wary. "Yes. You seem to have a lot of opinions on traffic flow," Elijah said, putting on a fake smile. "I'm hosting a traffic and urban summit this Friday at the Grand Hotel. Why don't you come? Bring that daughter you're always chattering to the other moms about. I hear she's looking for work. Maybe she can learn something about how the real world operates." He handed her a gold-embossed card. He expected her to refuse. He expected her to feel small. Instead, Martha took the card. She looked at it, then looked at him with an unreadable expression. A small, almost sad smile played on her lips. "We'll be there, Mr. Sterling," Martha said. "Nia is in town, actually. She'd love to see your presentation." "Great," Elijah laughed as he drove off. "Dress nice. It's a formal event." Friday arrived. The ballroom at the Grand Hotel was packed. There were investors, city council members, architects, and journalists. At the front of the room stood large easels displaying the sterling nexus. It looked magnificent in the renderings, gleaming glass, fountains, happy digital people. Elijah stood at the podium, feeling invincible. He wore a $5,000 suit. He began his speech, using buzzwords meant to confuse and impress. "We are talking about vertical integration," Elijah boomed. "We are talking about optimizing traffic flow through dynamic lane reduction suppression." A term he had made up. He scanned the room and smiled when he saw them. In the back row sat Martha. She wasn't wearing her neon vest today. She wore her Sunday best, a modest floral dress and a hat. Next to her sat a young woman. Elijah squinted. She was striking. She wore a sharp, navy blue pantsuit, her hair pulled back in a tight, professional bun. She had a laptop open on her knees. Probably taking notes for a community college class, Elijah thought dismissively. He decided to make his move. He wanted to show the room that the opposition was uneducated. "You know," Elijah said, stepping away from the podium and walking down the aisle with a microphone. "We often face resistance from the community. Good people. Hard-working people. But people who don't understand the macroeconomics of urban planning. For example." He stopped right in front of Martha. The cameras turned to follow him. "Martha here is a crossing guard. She does a great job. But Martha believes that holding up traffic for 3 minutes improves safety. What she doesn't understand is that by stopping cars, she creates induced demand inside streets, actually endangering more children. Isn't that right, Martha?" The room was quiet. It was a trap. He was using a complex term incorrectly to confuse her. Martha stood up slowly. She held her purse with both hands. "Mr. Sterling, I just make sure the babies get to school alive. But if you want to talk about induced demand, perhaps you should speak to my daughter." Elijah suppressed a laugh. He looked at the young woman. "Oh. And what does your daughter do? Is she a crossing guard in training?" The young woman, Nia, stood up. She didn't look nervous. She looked bored. She closed her laptop with a snap. "No, Mr. Sterling," Nia said. Her voice carried without the microphone. It was authoritative, crisp, and possessed a transatlantic clip that hinted at years spent studying abroad. "I am not a crossing guard. My name is Dr. Nia Vance. I hold a PhD in Sustainable Urban Development from the London School of Economics and a master's in Civil Engineering from MIT. Elijah blinked. The smile faltered on his face. "I see. Well, good for you. Education is important." "It is," Nia continued, stepping into the aisle. "And because education is important, you should know that your definition of induced demand is incorrect. Induced demand is when increasing roadway capacity encourages more people to drive, thus failing to relieve congestion. What my mother does is called traffic calming, which statistically reduces pedestrian fatalities by 40%. A ripple of murmurs went through the room. Elijah's face turned pink. "Well, that's all very academic, young lady, but here in the real world." In the real world, Nia interrupted, walking toward the stage. The city council hired a new firm to audit all major development permits 3 weeks ago. They wanted an outsider. Someone who couldn't be bought by local developers. Someone who looks at the data, not the handshake. She reached the podium. Elijah looked around, confused. "What are you doing?" "This is my summit." Nia plugged her laptop into the HDMI cable on the podium. The screen behind them flickered. Elijah's fancy rendering disappeared. In its place appeared a stark, complex map of the city covered in red lines. "I am the new chief city planner for the district," Nia announced. The silence in the room was heavy enough to crush a car. Elijah looked at Martha. Martha just winked. "I was appointed last month," Nia said to the stunned room. "I've been reviewing the Sterling Nexus proposal. And Mr. Sterling, frankly, it's a disaster." "Now wait a minute." Elijah shouted, stepping toward her. "You can't just." "Sit down, Mr. Sterling," Nia said. She didn't shout. She commanded. And to Elijah's horror, he sat. "Let's look at the facts," Nia said, using a laser pointer. "You claim your new parking structure will alleviate congestion. But your own traffic study, which I found buried in your Appendix C, shows that the garage entrance is located 20 feet from a primary arterial road. This will cause a backup of approximately 1.5 miles during rush hour." She clicked the slide. "Furthermore, you are requesting a zoning variance to build on top of a subterranean aquifer. The bedrock here," she circled a spot, "is unstable limestone. If you build a 40-story tower here, the vibration from the foundation work alone will crack the foundations of the low-income housing units 3 blocks east. Which, I suspect, is your plan. Make their homes unsafe, condemn them, and buy the land cheap." Is that correct? The journalists in the room were typing furiously. Flashbulbs went off. Elijah was sweating profusely. That is speculation. Elijah stammered. Libel. It's geology, Nia countered coldly. And I brought a geologist. Dr. Aris, would you wave? A man in the middle row waved. Nia turned to face Elijah fully. You invited my mother here to mock her. You thought because she wears a safety vest, she has no value. You thought because she serves the community rather than exploiting it, she is beneath you. But my mother worked double shifts in the rain and snow for 20 years to send me to the best universities on this planet. She taught me that a city isn't made of concrete and steel, Mr. Sterling. It's made of people. Nia looked down at the papers on the podium, Elijah's application. This morning, I reviewed the final environmental impact statement for the Sterling Nexus. She picked up the document. It fails on 14 counts. It violates the 2024 Pedestrian Safety Act. It ignores the clean water mandate. And, thanks to your little performance today, it's clear that the developer has a bias against established safety protocols. Nia ripped the document in half. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. Application denied with prejudice, Nia said. That means you cannot reapply for 3 years. And when you do, you will include 40% affordable housing, a public park, and a dedicated, protected crosswalk at 4th and Oak. And you will personally apologize to the crossing guard. Elijah Sterling slumped in his chair. He looked at his investors, they were already checking their phones, calling their lawyers to pull their money out. He looked at the journalists, they were smelling blood. Finally, he looked at Martha. The elderly woman stood up slowly. The room parted for her as she walked toward the exit. She stopped by Elijah's chair. Mr. Sterling, Martha said softly. Elijah looked up, his eyes hollow. Yes? Drive safe, she said. And watch out for the kids. The aftermath. The video of the summit went viral. It was viewed millions of times. Elijah Sterling's reputation never fully recovered. His investors pulled out, and he was forced to sell the land to a non-profit community land trust. Under Nia's guidance, and with significant input from the community, the lot was developed 3 years later. It wasn't a luxury high-rise. It was a mixed-income community center with a library, a grocery store, and affordable apartments. They named the central courtyard Martha's Plaza. As for Elijah, he's still a developer, but he's much smaller now. And every morning, when he drives through 4th and Oak, he stops. He waits. He doesn't honk. And when Martha holds up her stop sign, he gives her a wave. She doesn't always wave back. But she keeps the children safe. And in the end, that's the only power that really matters. Why this story matters. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about facts and dignity. 1. The reality of city planning, Nia's points were accurate. Induced demand is a real economic theory, Lewis Mogridge position, which suggests that adding road capacity generates more traffic. Traffic calming, speed bumps, narrowed roads, make streets safer for pedestrians. 2. The value of labor, we often judge people by their uniforms. Elijah saw a vest and saw unskilled. But that vest protected the future, the children. 3. The long game, Martha didn't argue with Elijah in the street. She played the long game. She invested in her daughter. If you enjoyed this story of justice and urban planning facts, please subscribe to our channel. We post stories that make you think, feel, and cheer. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a true story upload. Comment below, have you ever been underestimated by someone because of your job? Let us know.